let's set up for the next scene.
Why, hello there. Nice to see you. As you can see, we're in the middle of making a movie. It's a picture in which I play the part of an automotive engineer. We've selected the Packard Proving Grounds here as one of our locations. I'm particularly happy with the opportunity of being here, too, because as a Packard owner, I'm finding out a lot of things about my car that I never fully appreciated before. In the first place, these proving grounds are a symbol of the extent to which Packard goes to prove, maintain, guard, if you will, the Packard heritage of quality, a word synonymous with the name Packard. Now, let me tell you a little of what I've learned here at this wonderful place. These beautiful grounds cover an area of 560 acres near the town of Utica, Michigan. They contain the world's fastest concrete track, which is 55 feet wide and 2.5 miles long. The entrance and exits of the curves are constructed so that no reduction of speed is ever necessary as the test cars go around, often at speeds of better than 100 miles an hour. The infield covers 265 acres and is actually an emergency landing field in this area. The proving grounds also contain 18 miles of test roads with various surface formations approximating some of the nation's worst driving conditions. The buildings house the offices, garages, machine and repair shops, plus special testing laboratories. You see, the sole purpose of all this is to uphold Packard quality by providing a constant check on engineering theory and manufacturing standards. In other words, when it comes to quality, there's no guesswork. The boys out here deal in cold, hard facts. They call themselves the Watchdogs of production, and here's why. Long before a new model Packard is ever built, the boys out here begin their watchdogging in cooperation with the engineers of the plant in what is called the development stage. Practically every part under development for use in a new model gets a going over out here in the test laboratories. Maybe it's a new piece of mechanism in the steering assembly, or any one of 100 parts or parts of parts planned for the new car. Regardless, it must pass its rigid test for quality of operation. For example, a proposed improvement in the rear suspension system calls for special apparatus to test and record the frequency and friction in leaf springs. New seat comfort is accurately gauged by checking cushion rate and deflection. Next year's frame is checked and double-checked for rigidity and safety under terrific strain. Door handles and trunk locks. Fans and fan belts even must pass tests for endurance and wear far beyond anything ever expected of them in normal life. Engines under development are sent to the dynamometer cells where, for not hundreds but thousands of hours, they are run at all speeds while their performance is watched and recorded with the aid of the latest type of electronic equipment. There are stroboscopes for studying the various engine parts in operation, hundreds of other gauges, instruments, and pieces of special apparatus, all to make fact-finding a scientific reality and eliminate any possible guesswork. I tell you...
Sorry to interrupt, Addison, but we're ready to shoot your next scene over in the soundproof laboratory. Here's the prop.
Right away, Art. Oh, you may be interested in seeing this scene. According to the story in this movie we're making, I'm supposed to test a new air cleaner, which was designed by a young engineer who, well, he just happens to be my son. So, you see, well, you'll see. The scene explains itself. Here we are in one of the most interesting laboratories out here. This room is completely insulated with fiberglass and is absolutely soundproof. And since quietness of operation and almost complete insulation from noise is one of Packard's finest features, you can see why this laboratory, with all its special equipment, is so important. Right, Art?
Right. Take this piece of apparatus here. I understand it can detect and record sounds in frequencies much higher or much lower than the human ear can hear.
You see? Again, no guesswork.
Shall we go to work?
Right away.
Now, here's the situation. This air cleaner, designed by your son, has come through every test. It functions perfectly, except
that I suspect it might be too noisy, so I make the test with it on the car.
Of course, you hope you're wrong, because if you okay the design, it'll mean a lot to your son. If you can't okay it, well, all his work is, well, out the window. I want to see that idea in your expression.
Okay, shall we try it?
All right, roll it. Quiet, please.
Hello, Bob. This is Dad. Bad news. It's too noisy. Because of its low restriction, it roars at between 30 and 50 miles an hour. I can't okay your design. Sorry. Keep trying.
Cut. That looked fine to me. Let's get ready for the next scene.
You know, there's one thing about this director of ours. He insists that everything be technically correct. Everything just as it actually happened.
That's why we came to the proving ground, to get the real thing.
To get back to what I was saying about the Packard Watchdogs, when the various and individual parts have come through all the tests, they are then okayed as parts for the new models. Of course, this doesn't mean that they're okay for production. It just means that they can be included as part of the new hand-built prototypes, the pilot models of the cars to come, if they can still meet the high standards of quality. And incidentally, all Packard products are tested against one standard. You can't compromise when it comes to top quality. So, once again, the crew of Watchdogs out at the proving grounds take over. And here's what happens. Trained project engineers specializing in brakes, steering, suspension, engine performance, safety, and so on, begin a new series of fact-finding tests. These pilot models go through more than 100 different tests for speed, economy, steering effort, ride, safety, structural rigidity, brakes, ease and convenience of operation. However, even though the test engineers make careful observations and full reports, they don't rely on human reactions alone. Just to be sure that guesswork is taken out of this all-important job, again, the engineers employ a tremendous variety of scientific instruments. For instance, here's a car equipped with a fifth wheel and instruments to record an accurate acceleration rate throughout the entire speed range. There are special instruments for testing brake equipment, operating economy, and axle noises. There are gauges and meters for checking stress and strain, and the temperature of oils, cylinder heads, cooling systems, and all functional parts. Here's the famous towing dynamometer set up in a Jeep. This equipment checks the car's tractive factors by simulating a 24-hour hill climb at full throttle. Yes, the Watchdogs out here take full advantage of scientific instruments in their important job of finding facts. Facts that ensure quality and safety. However, Even so, this is still only part of the story. When the new models are approved for production, more watchdogs go into action in the material testing laboratories in the plant itself. Samples of all raw materials that go into the car are carefully examined and checked against top quality standards. Upholstery fabrics are tested for tensile strength and wearing ability, as well as ability to hold their beautiful colors under the fadometer, or sunshine machine. Rubber is tested for quality, and so are the paints, the glass, and the many different kinds of metal that go into the building of a Packard product. Here again, scientific equipment plus trained technicians take the guesswork out of the job. Even the quality and safety of the material in a weld is checked. And although it takes costly X-ray equipment to do it, nothing is left to chance. That same thing holds true in the receiving laboratories, where all purchased component parts are spot-checked and tested against Packard's exacting specifications for high quality. Even though these individual parts have been inspected by the original manufacturer, they're spot-checked again. And when a part is too small for ordinary visual inspection, it is magnified up to 32.5 times and checked against huge but precise gauges. But again, that's still not all. The material and workmanship of every step in the production of a Packard product must be okayed for quality by experienced and specialized inspectors. This constant inspection is all part of a complete and continuous system of quality control, covering manufacturing processes, sub-assemblies, assemblies, and the final product. But even when the final product receives its complete okay, that's still not the end of this plan for perfection. This task of maintaining and guarding Packard's superior quality and super safety. Why? Because cars are taken at random from the production line and again sent to the watchdogs at the proving grounds, where, as finished products, the Packards and Clippers are put through a grueling endurance test of not 5,000, 10, but up to 50,000 of the toughest kind of miles. During this exacting endurance test, cars are brought into the garage at regular intervals for safety inspections and normal service. Then, back they go for more road work. And it doesn't make any difference what the weather. The tests go on. And what's more, just to be doubly sure that Packards can take it in all kinds of weather, they have to pass more performance tests in a special weather-controlled room under temperatures that go down to an Arctic-like 40 below zero, or up to torrid tropical temperatures of 125 degrees. Believe you me, that's mighty hot. But that's the purpose of these tests, because a Packard has to be able to take it. That's why, day or night, you can see them out here piling up the thousands and thousands of miles on the concrete track so scientifically constructed that the Packards can literally steer themselves around the beautifully banked curves. Just relax and enjoy the ride. What a job. Of course, it isn't all that easy, because not just occasionally, but every 2 hours, the cars must be driven over the twisting body rack road. The road that puts a terrific strain on every structural part of the car in a test for safety as well as endurance. Then, through the water bath that splashes and soaks and tests the tightness and safety of all exposed seals. Again, not just once or a dozen times, but a total of 500 times in hub-deep water. All this, along with a total of 250 trips over the railroad. Railroad ties, that is. Plus an additional 100 miles of hub-deep travel through the sandy desert area. More than prove that Packard products are built to take it. Talk about a tough test for brake housings, transmissions, and engine power. Boy, this is it. You know, many of the competitive cars are brought out here and put through this endurance test to see how they compare with staying power and quality. But in spite of their claims, they just can't take it. It takes the power of a Packard to come through these tests and climb these hills with grades of over 30% with effortless ease. Finally, when all of the endurance tests are completed, the test cars are torn down and every single part, every nut and bolt, spread out for the engineers to study, examine, and search for ways and means to make still further improvements. For instance, if a different or stronger metal were used on this particular part, it might last longer, be still safer. Here's something that needs redesigning, and so it goes, until everything is checked and a careful record kept of its performance against Packard's high standards of safety and quality. Are you beginning to see now how all this is just another example of the fact that Packard is a completely independent manufacturer? Are you beginning to see, too, what I meant when I said that I was learning things out here that made me, as a Packard owner, have a greater appreciation for my car? And speaking of appreciation, the other day, just to show that they had an appreciation for what we call showmanship, the test drivers, the engineers, put on a little exhibition for us. The exhibition began with an exciting race between the Packard products. I wasn't surprised at the outcome. Next was an economy run against a couple of competitive cars. Each car was equipped with special gas tanks holding only 1/10 of a gallon. All cars were driven at the same speed. Packard Clipper. Then came a race to test passing ability in the 40 to 70 mile range. The Packard Patrician goes from 40 to 70 miles an hour in 12.3 seconds in the test. And that test really means something when it comes to safety, because Packard's greatest driving power, what the engineers call torque, comes in the speed range where it's needed most. Now, the next little demonstration had to do with comparing the suspension system of a Packard with that of a competitive car. The measuring instruments weren't exactly scientific, but it was fun to watch. Inside the competitive car, the ride seemed to be a little rough, whereas the ride delivered by the Packard, well, it spoke for itself. The whole show was climaxed by a demonstration of Packard's power steering ease in the waltz of the cars. Yes, performance does prove Packard's perfection. That's one thing I certainly learned from the Watchdogs here at the proving grounds. No wonder everyone is saying now, look to Packard, the new standard of comparison. And I say, now more than ever, just ask the man who owns one.